I don't know how much of that I missed. Evidently, I turned the camera off and never turned it back on. That sucks. Okay, so what I'm opening up is one of the Planishing hammer kits off of eBay, one of the inexpensive ones, and I had already opened the box. I thought the camera was recording. I don't know how much of it I missed. I've got the base out, and I was just saying that I'm going to get everything out and start putting it together. This is packaged really badly. It looks like it's been opened before. There's a giant hole in the box. There's hardware literally everywhere inside this box. It looks like it's missing part of the packaging. This edge of the foam is broken out of the box. And it does not have, we can use this fitting with the air tool, but I'm going to have something else. I'm going to have to be able to hook my air supply into this line, and I'm not sure if I will be. I should be able to, we will take that apart in a little bit and figure it out. So that's what's going on so far. Let's get this thing out of the box and see how much of it's missing. All right, guys, this thing is small to say the least. I'm probably going to lift it up. I know I'm going to create some sort of base for it because it's too tippy. I don't think there's any way. I mean, it's meant to be bolted to the floor, but there's no way I can bolt it to the floor in my shop. It's too small of a space to have stuff like that bolted to the floor. So we're going to put a pin in that. What I'll probably do is get a piece of 4x4 and 2 pieces of flat plate and raise it up to however high I want it. But like I said, we're still going to have to do something on the base. Maybe run a piece of 4x4 that way and then attach it that way to kind of give it more stability and more weight down low. But so instructions on this. Actually, one of the screws, the last screw probably needs to go in there to lock this in place. But it was short washers. I had some. It doesn't look like it's missing a whole lot of the other hardware, just some washers. According to the instructions, it was supposed to have 6 nuts and only had 2, which I used on the bottom 2 bolts, which were the longest 2 bolts. There's one bolt that's a little longer. I assume it goes there, and then there's one that's going to go there. So we're going to work on getting the rest of this put together and see how things go. So your air hammer would go here. They just got the trigger pulled on it indefinitely, and it would take the fitting naturally. It has the air hammer spring, and it has the top die. This needs to be polished. I don't know if we're going to get into that today or not. Anyway, work on this a little more and we'll come back. All right, guys. I've kind of put this thing together. I've already tried it out a little bit. So one thing I did run into, that other hose won't work, but it does have pipe threads in the, it does have pipe threads, so a regular nipple will attach to the foot. So if you needed a longer hose to go to it, you know, you may have to buy a hose head, and played with the shallowest crown on there. This thing's hitting hard. I'm not sure that it doesn't matter where I put the regulator on the air hammer, it's hitting just as hard at full throttle either way. So I went ahead and put the highest crown on there. I thought we would, you know, take just a piece of scrap metal and see what we could do with it. I probably ought to be wearing gloves, but, you know, shame on me. I'll turn the volume down so I don't deafen you. And here we go. I'm sitting on a stool. This thing's really low to the ground. Probably ought to be running it with my right foot to control and it may, I think this line is leaking. So I'll have to work on that. There's a couple of other problems. This is not machined correctly, and it mushroomed the little collar end. I've got it adjusted up, but the hammer is just about all the way out the top. So we may have to think about tapping this hole for this bolt. Okay guys, so we weren't going to make anything in particular. I was just starting in the middle of this panel and planishing out. So far as planishing, it does really well. The only thing is that we need to be able to turn the air pressure down. I'm getting some water. I do see I'm getting some water, so I need to empty my lines. So let's go see how much water is in my air separator. Guys, if y'all remember, I built this air separator on the channel a good while back. Let's see how much we got. Quite a bit. And there's none in the other separator. So quite a bit of water that it's making its way over here up the line. And the line may be sweating from the heat because the gun's not hot, but the metal was getting hot. So we do need to be able to turn the air pressure down, because if you're just planishing, getting the dents out of metal, which is why I got it, is to be able to planish this roof panel with some of the tracking marks that have gotten kind of deep, is it needs to just get it needs to get those marks out. It doesn't need to actually stretch. And that's one of the things you can do with a planishing hammer is stretch, but that's not what we're going for. What we're going for is to get the finish without stretching it, or get all the marks out of it without stretching it. So something else we need to do on this hammer before I get too carried away with it is we need to take the hammer, the actually planishing head of the hammer, and we need to polish that, because with any hammer you have, and this also goes for blacksmithing, but any metalworking you do, the face of your hammer that's actually hitting the surface of the metal that you're going to see, and even the anvil on the back side of it, it's going to transfer whatever the surface of that piece of metal looks like to the metal you're working. So that's going to be it on this. When I first opened the box, I was really not happy with it. I'm still wish that it was a little taller, but I think we got a workaround. So we may do in the future, we're probably going to do a modification on this. We've got some places we need to fix. As you can see right there, I was running it all the way down because the bolt barely grabs the barrel of the hammer where it's sitting now. So I'm going to take and end up probably filing this area down to where it doesn't have a taper here, where it's got a ramp that's to the bottom of the cam right here. So that's probably going to be in the future. We'll just aggravate with it right now. I'm ready. I'm actually wanting to work on the roof panel on the truck today, but I needed to unbox this in case we do use it. Right now, as violent as this thing is, I'm not sure. I was honestly thinking that, you know, it was probably going to flex too much to do any real, you know, planishing. I think if we stiffen up that frame, it would do a lot better job than that. But we do need to get this, like I said, the air valve in this air hammer is doing nothing. It's literally doing nothing. So the purpose for me buying this was that I looked at Planishing hammer dies, and I looked at the tooling and everything, and I was like, well, it's not really, you know, so far as buying each part individual, you're not going to save a whole lot, $50 or $75 or something like that. But then you'd have to build a frame. Well, the frame, I'm going to have to do something with the frame. It's not really, you know, it's tiny. I don't know. I mean, other than sitting on a stool, and, you know, I don't know that there's any way I'd be able to hold that roof panel and, you know, work it with any accuracy here. So like I said, the air hammer has definitely got problems, you know, and that's, you know, that need to be taken care of before I use it for planishing anything serious. And the frame, it needs to be beefed up. So was it worth it to buy it? I don't know, other than just saving the time of it already being ready to go after, you know, 30 minutes of putting it together. I don't know. That's for you to decide. Dissatisfied with it. I think it'll do what I want it to do. I do have plans in the future to build a bigger hammer, but we'll get into that later on in the future. Too long off. But the other thing I need to do, and I don't know if I'm going to do it in this video. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go on and tell you I'm not going to show you all this in this video. I was messing around and ended up breaking one of the ends of my tucking hammer, and I'm going to need that. So we're going to have to make an end for the tucking hammer, and I'll just do that off camera, and y'all see that in the next video. But anyway, guys, thanks for checking me out. Like I said, long video again. It was just necessary to move on to the next step, which should come this week. And I did notice that I got to make another adjustment on my wireframe buck. I got this week. Y'all like and subscribe. I will next week definitely we will be on that roof skin, working on it.